Hi everyone, today is January 19th, 2019, and this is the Duel Assessment, your podcast for Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. My name is Green Ranger,
And I'm Deck Tech.
and it's been a pretty tame week. We've had several weeks of events and a lot of card releases and stuff like that, so Konami has been dialing it down a bit. Um, they did show something in the app update that it is Konami's 50th anniversary, so I'm not sure what we are to expect from that, but right now, not a whole lot. There is the Trudge event going on to get him if you haven't gotten him the first time, and there's a new skill and a couple new cards, mostly esports that we will be talking about this week. Um, we're just getting through all of the stuff that happened, and of course the nerfs are rolling along too for the skill changes. So all that is going down right now. Detective, where are you this week?
Yeah, so this week I mentioned, I think last week, maybe the week before, that I was getting really close to maxing my character's levels, and basically that has continued. And so I stopped caring about which characters I was using in PvP. I had previously been trying fairly hard to level up and get like that particular skill of what grows in the graveyard, but now that deck's not even considered really a top meta deck anyway. And in terms of leveling, I like to use characters I haven't maxed yet, but when everyone's this close to being maxed, I'm like, yeah, I might as well just use the characters that I want. So I've been playing around with a bunch of different stuff in PvP, just trying to find something that I enjoy. So I got Banished Dinos. I played a few games with that. I played a couple games with Gem Knights, but then I put that away because I haven't gotten the new turtle yet. Haven't played enough to get the ticket for that, but I'll pick that back up after I do. And then I did a little bit of Blue Eyes again. Still trying to find something that I really like and that's new and fresh and whatever, and that's decent. Dinos was fun for one day that I had a really good day, and then the next day I just lost like 10 in a row, and I'm like, all right, I'm done with that deck. So, it's going okay, but at least I'm playing PvP again. I haven't done that in a little bit. Trying to get that head start on the, what do they call it? KC Cup. So, getting some games in when I can. The main downside is that I'm in Platinum based on, how little I've played and where I finished last time and stuff, and Platinum is just filled with for hire decks, and I just don't really like playing against them. So that's kind of my main hang up at this point.
It sucks that kind of like you want motivation to play, and then there's this huge downside.
Yeah, yeah, but it's all right, I guess. In terms of like as far as hang-ups go, that one's not too bad because at least when I beat them, I feel good. Like suck it for a hire guy. So I don't know. How about you? What are you doing this week?
Right. So I want to begin by saying how last week I failed at Pagami. I only received one Magician of Black Illusion, which I think we got one just from doing it, I think. I'm not sure. And then I got one of the Gaia. I didn't really care about the Gaia, but the Magician of Black Illusion is definitely the one that we said could make Dark Magicians a deck again. I only have one, so
Yeah.
I'll just wait around till he comes back or use like a card ticket in the future for it, I guess. I don't know. But I am in No, I'm in Legend 1. I've been in Legend 1, and I've seen different Karakuri decks been played. They've gotten King of Games, and I've seen some from tournaments. So I'm trying out different things, but nothing's really sticking. Part of it is me not knowing how to play the deck. It's still a struggle. And I guess just not knowing which deck I like the most. That's another struggle, and I'm just trying out these different things, and I haven't moved off Legend 1, so that's where I am right now.
Yeah, I didn't do perfectly with Yami either. We talked about it at the time, he was a tough farm even after they nerfed him a bit. He still had times where just the farm deck that I worked just did not work. And so I ended up with I think I was missing 2 cards total. So I had 2 of his offerings was limited to only 2 copies of it. So I was lucky enough I got the Magician. I thought about playing with that actually. That was another thing that I didn't end up trying, but I plan on trying. So I guess we'll see.
Yeah, cool. All right.
Cool.
So esports last week, Duel Links Meta Championship Series 14 happened last Saturday, and it was only a matter of time until this happened. But the Kawaki Meirus were boiling over. They were clearly the best deck, and they completely took over here. I think representing 40 of the top decks. Oh no, wait, 40 out of all decks, and then 14 of the top 32. So that's a huge. That's almost half of the decks there.
Yeah, yeah. The deck is clearly dominant in this tournament, and I mean, there's just kind of nothing. It just blows everything else out of the water. The next highest in the overall is Control, which has 24, and so it's it's looking. It's not almost twice, but it is almost twice or more than twice of the third and fourth most popular decks. So it's just like way ahead of everything else. And then it makes up almost half of the top 32. So the results are, in keeping with its dominance or its prevalence. So, that's definitely a top deck right there.
And Control is a bit of a. It's undergoing an identity crisis. I think that's a good way of putting it. And the Silent Swordsman deck was released pretty much right a day before this tournament happened, I think. So that's what got Control boosted up a little, I think.
Yeah, for sure. They have, I don't know, 17. So probably about 16 or 15 of the Control decks had the Silent Swordsman. So definitely a big boost because the deck, like, overall was seeing a big drop before this due to a bad matchup with Kawaki Meiru.
Yeah. There are 3 decks with Obelisk somehow. So the Obelisk decks were Vampires, Ojamas, and For Hires. That's kind of funny, but I would like to see that deck get into the top 32, but it did not, so I
guess. Yeah. Well,
hard to say. I don't know if it did.
Maybe the Vampires, but yeah. I mean, if you look at it, it's just any of the decks that have an easy time filling up the board, which obviously that makes sense. I played around with Obelisk as well. I didn't take that one onto PvP though, or I think I did, but it just didn't do very well. He's still like objectively the strongest of the God cards, but it just seems like not quite strong enough for a competitive PvP play.
I mean, we're both like at our 1 floors. I guess we could just try.
Yeah, I mean that's part of why I was just playing around with stuff, right? Like it didn't really matter.
Yeah. So let's see. First place, Jagaliko. This is Last Gamble Buster Blader, and if you're not familiar with how they play, if you haven't played against them in the ladder, they're a control deck, and they try to sacrifice your monsters using the quick play Destruction, Swordsman, and Fusion. They turn everyone into a dragon first, and then they sacrifice your monster in a quick play to special summon the Buster Blader. That's how it works. And this one's a little different. They have Goddess with the Third Eye. Typically, they run a Hex Fusion monster, but I'm not really sure the difference why they run the Goddess with the Third Eye, because she can't. Those Hex Fusion monsters can fuse on the board. Like, they don't need polymerization, or they don't need this quick play to fuse. They can fuse. They have a built-in polymerization, and the Goddess with the Third Eye does not. I'm not really sure why that happened here, but this deck did take first place.
Yeah. I don't know either. I also don't know if there are any budget considerations there, because I don't remember how I got my Hex guy. Was it from a box, probably?
There's a Dark Hex and a Light Hex. The Dark Hex is from a box, and the Light Hex is a ranked reward. This guy doesn't have 2 Dark Paladins. You wouldn't run this Armadides for no reason. You would just run 2 Dark Paladins, typically.
Oh, that's why. Okay, that explains it, though. Because that's the reason why he's running this thing, because it's a 4-star. Is the Hex also a 4-star?
Like 3, I think.
Yeah, I think that might be the reason why, then. So that he could get the Armadides.
He has no tuners. Oh, he does have a tuner. Never mind.
Yeah, the Buster Whelp is a tuner.
That explains it. Okay.
Yeah.
Second place, Zadust Karakuri deck. All the Karakuri decks do run level augmentation, so that's kind of assumed as a skill. There's no real way to build it yet. but we're starting to see them change up a little bit. This one does have 3 copies of Offerings to the Doomed and 3 Bushis. So Bure, I mean, I'm thinking of Bushi, wrong card. And basically, they work really well together to set up the one-turn kill. It doesn't run Hey Trune though, which is interesting. I think it's a card that's very necessary, but in this tournament setting, they don't run it here. And you are starting to see 4 tuners now, at least. They're adding this Nishipachi as a 4th tuner in many of these decks.
Yeah. So I haven't played I haven't played this deck at all because I didn't buy it from this set. Um, so I don't really have too much to add from that, except sure, yeah. I mean, you can see. I guess the one thing, so you can see the sideboard is obviously uh, expecting the Kwakimerus, but I
Right.
think you'll notice that pretty much every sideboard is, and that was a good call.
Yeah. Third place Luller, Sealed Tombs, Koakimeru. Um, you noted that this deck does not sideboard against other decks, but sideboards against cards in the other decks.
Yeah, I thought this was hilarious. If you look at Luller's sideboard, he's got 2 Unending Nightmare, which is the trap that lets you. It's a continuous trap that lets you repeatedly pay 1,000 life points to destroy a spell or trap on the field. And then 3 Non-Fusion Area, which is a continuous trap that just says neither player can fusion summon. And so the first one is to counter enemies' poisonous winds. And then the second one is just to counter the Buster Blader deck. And so it's kind of like, I mean, I guess a little bit of it is the non-fusions are kind of to counter other decks, but it mostly just seems like, especially since the Buster Blader deck just in its entirety is pretty much just here to counter Kwakimerus. This seems like it's mostly a side deck not against enemy decks that you're afraid of, but just against people who are trying to hate you out. So instead of hating on something else, you're just protecting against their hate. And that's kind of a show of how impactful and dominant this deck is, that it doesn't fear any other deck. Kind of fears Buster Blader because that's a targeted counter, but mostly it's just countering its counters. So that's a clear assertion of its dominance, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. Third place Sealed Tombs, Koakimeru. You've got the same exact deck list here, except they didn't really. Their sideboard's not as dominant with the non-fusion areas.
Yeah, this sideboard looks more like a traditional sideboard with a couple different options, and I don't know, not 100% specifically trying to counter something. It does look like this list just doesn't care about the Buster Blader matchup. I think, right? It's kind of just like hoping to dodge them, which is
Sphere Cerebros, I
sometimes,
guess. Yeah.
yeah, but it's sometimes like the right play to just kind of, instead of trying to water your deck down, just hope that you can avoid a certain matchup. But that's just a meta call. You have to set your decks ahead of time and decide, am I going to see more of this? Am I going to see enough Buster Blader to warrant my putting sideboard slots to it? And I guess this guy, Paggy Yin, decided not to.
Yeah. Top 8, Betrayal with Sealed Tombs Control. Control's a bit weird now. They've got the Silent Swordsman package, which is 3 of the UR, the new 4-star Silent Swordsman. That's 1,000, and special summons the big one. There's 1 level 7. There's the Amazoness package, 2 Princess, 1 Queen, 2 Swords Women, and Onslaught, and then you have DD Assailants and a lot of trap cards. So it's kind of like the Silent Swordsman took on a new flavor. The Wind-Up Jugglers, the Breakers are gone, so this is the new control for now.
Yeah, and that's because the Silent Swordsman level 4 requires a warrior to be summoned, special summoned. And so Amazoness, of course, just works with the control theme while at the same time working with the Silent Swordsman, and the same with the DD Assailant. And the things like Wind Up Juggler are, I think that one's a psychic or something, so they don't fit in this overall theme. I think this deck looks really powerful for the ladder as well. In I noticed that he has a ton of trap cards and no spells in his main deck,
Yeah.
and I think that is specifically because you don't want to get countered by your opponents. Um, oh, I guess your own as well. It says negate all spell effects on the field. I didn't realize that. I thought it was just you get to pick and choose. But okay, that makes sense. The main point, though, is that because you don't run spells and traps, you could, on the ladder, if you wanted to, run this with Endless Trap Hell instead. And that might be better for the ladder where you can expect a wider range of things, except for maybe at the very top of the ladder. And Sealed Tombs is a little bit more targeted, specifically trying to counter things like vampires and I guess like Blue Eyes and a couple other things, but mostly vampires.
Yeah, I'm thinking of sealed like vampires being down if it's for Buster Blader because I think they do stuff in the graveyard too. I'm not sure like what the main target is, but I guess it hits a range. That's the point, I guess.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Up 8, select Maple. Karakuri deck. This is a slightly different take. You've got 2 Pulse Mines in the deck, which kind of took over the Hey Trunate slots. They do have Shinzang Hu though. This one is still heavy on card advantage. We'll see some decks later that are not. You've got 3 Caches, 2 Anatomies, and this one actually runs Samsara, a new Synchro monster in the extra deck.
Cool. Yeah, I again don't really have a ton to share on this deck list because I don't know it. It does have the Necro Valley in there, which we talked about it before. That's kind of like your it's your Sealed Tombs if you want to run a different skill. And so, as you mentioned, all of these guys are running level augmentation, so it kind of makes sense that you would see Necro Valley in the sideboard for this deck.
Yep. Up 8, Serenity, Tie That Binds, Kwakimeru. I think it makes sense to say that they run Tie That Binds just so they could get over the other Kwakimeru decks, right?
Yeah, that would make sense. Obviously, your Sphere Karibos and Econs also help with that. But if you're expecting a lot of mirrors, then yeah, definitely makes sense.
And the Black Pendants in the side deck. I'm not really sure what these are for, but they're here.
Yeah, probably the same, but I don't know what you would take out for them. It's interesting. Maybe
They might just have
there for
games.
the memes.
They might just be so many games where they have 500 life points left and they lose the next turn. It could just be for that, right? Like they destroy their monster and then they lose. I'm not sure if there's like a math thing where they're left at 500 all the time.
I'm looking at them and I don't see how there would be, but maybe.
Yeah. Not really sure.
I mean, I guess he has 19s. No, 19 and 18. Whatever. I don't know. I think it's just for the mirror, so you can attack over their guys in addition to tie the points. I don't know. It's interesting.
And last top 8, Remarkable Jam, Sealed Tombs Control. This one actually has a new monster. There is I actually did not know this card when I saw the art. I just, like, what is this guy? It's Justice Bringer. Once per turn, when special summoned monster your opponent controls activates effect, negate the activation. It's pretty good. And of course, it's a warrior, so it fits in with the Silent Swordsman.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same idea. He goes lighter on the Amazonas and doesn't have the DD, so kind of has to fit something else in there. And negating effects is a strong ability, especially when you can protect it with your various traps and stuff. So seems like a decent choice. Although I don't know about not running Amazon's Queen. I love my Queen.
Sure. Alright, so Meta Weekly 55, it kind of took a different swing in that I feel like this happens all the time where they have a MCS and then the top deck doesn't show up anymore in the well, they showed up, but they weren't first place in this following Meta Weekly. It seems.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I think the meta reacting, right? Everyone saw the Kwakimeru just dominated the MCS, and so a lot of people either decided to target Kwakimeru or decided that they didn't want to bring it because they knew that it would get targeted. And so we see in the full deck list breakdown, it's still the number one deck, but only like just barely. There 19 people brought it overall, and then 18 people overall brought the Karakuri. And then in the top 32, that kind of it flipped slightly as well. Karakuri, 8 people in the top 32, and Kwakimeru with 7. And the Karakuri actually ended up doing better in the top 4 that we're about to go over as well.
Yeah. So first place 3D Karakuri deck, 21 cards, and a big shift that you're seeing, that you're gonna see in all these, is that they're low on card advantage. There's only one cache and 2 anatomies. 21 cards. It's a little different. Typically, you want to draw your whole deck, and it's more stall. There's 5 stall cards here. There's 2 floodgates, 3 Paleozoic Canadias. Yeah, it's different. They're going lighter on card draw.
Yeah. Also has, I don't know, one Hey Trunade main. I don't think we saw that before.
This is a split. This is a rare.
Yeah.
You see one of each. Yeah.
Interesting. And then kind of a mixed sideboard as well. So this seems like 3D was kind of just trying to play the whole field, right? A little bit of everything, which kind of makes sense if you don't know exactly what to expect. It does blow my theory, though, that I thought that maybe Kwakimeru did not get first because they just got completely hated out. At least for this first deck, that doesn't quite seem to be the case.
Second place Mordecai with another Karakuri deck. This one also runs one cache. This is more like a ladder deck. You see the 2 Hey Trunades instead of the Econ instead. Yeah, there's 3 Paleozoic Canadians and no floodgates here. Pretty basic looking deck.
Clean, symmetrical. I don't know. This list is very aesthetically pleasing. I love it. He's got lots of 3 ofs and 2 ofs with a very clear direction of what he wants to do. And then the sideboard as well is pretty clean. Exactly, 2 poisonous winds, 1 magic deflector, and 2 non-fusionary. Just a very clear kind of plan in mind. It's kind of the opposite of how I build decks. I like to kind of just put a little bit of everything everywhere. So kind of makes, I don't know. This is nice too.
It goes hard on the Armadides. I think this is the first one I've seen 3 Armadides in.
Yeah, that's true. 3 Armadides, only 2 of the Burai, and then none of anything else. Yeah.
Yeah.
The one we just went over had the Ancient Fairy Dragon. Some of the ones from the last tournament had other guys.
Yeah. That's definitely a consideration when you're building your Karakuri deck. Like, what extra deck cards? I only have 1 Armadides because free to play, by the way. So I have to use like Goyo Chaser, and some decks run Lightning Warrior, which I said sucks, but people are getting King of Games with Lightning Warrior, so I've been proven wrong.
Or despite Lightning Warrior.
Yeah.
You could still be right.
Yeah, I could run it. Third place flips, Last Gamble, Buster Blader. This one does run the Hex Fusion. It's from Dawn of Destiny, so that's where it was from. Yeah, it's pretty much what you expect. It's a stall deck. They do nothing for many turns, and then you play Moxie, and they steal it for Buster Blader. So that's how they work.
Yeah, and of course, if you just do nothing every once in a while, they can just kind of beat you in the face a few times with Breaker. You can't just like sit there and do actually nothing because you'll get Paleozoic and Breakered and just kind of chip down until you die. But yeah, you'll notice that when you run the Hex, it is of course a level 3 confirmed now, and there's no Armadides in the extra deck. So I don't know. I would have to play the deck to find out what's more frequently valuable. If you want that every once in a while a chance to get Armades, or if you prefer every once in a while to have a chance to get the Hex out, Hex Fusion thing. It
Yeah.
seems to me like the Hex Fusion probably doesn't happen all that often because you would have to get Buster Blader out first, right?
Yeah. It seems like it's always from the hand. Like it's always from the hand, which you can't do here.
Yeah. So I think I kind of prefer the other build, but
Yeah.
it's definitely a lot less common. So it might have just been that I forget the other player's name, but it might have been just that the other guy, um, figured something out that not everyone else has.
Everyone has Goddess with a third eye. That's like a free card.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. I meant not everyone has figured out.
What to do.
Yeah.
And third place, Jonin Joe Karakuri. This one takes down the card advantage even more. This only has one anatomy. Typically, you see two of these, so the pot of reeds are getting ditched. Yeah, I actually this guy's name was familiar because I was looking up the King of Games decks and I was playing one of his decks and it only had one anatomy as well. And I can't say it helped me. I mean, I'm still Legend 1, but still, this is kind of his build. One anatomy, one cache. Um, yeah.
And a more mixed set of synchros as well. It's got two Burai, one Armenides, and then one Samsara and one Ancient Fairy Dragon. So kind of it's a lot more split than some of the other ones we've seen.
I think I run Stardust because I seem like I get 8 stars a lot. Stardust is good against many cards, but unfortunately in these tournaments they're not running widespread ruins and things like that. So
Yeah, I mean, it'll come back at some point probably. It's a very strong card.
all right. So the Duel Links meta tier list updated this time, and it was a pretty big change. A lot of parts moving up and down here.
Yeah, so I guess this has kind of become my section a little bit, but it looks like Kawaki Meru, they still have it staying up on Tier 1, which makes sense because it just totally dominated the MCS. Had a little bit less dominant of a showing in that subsequent tournament, but, you could still be Tier 1 and miss a tournament every once in a while. That just happens. Sometimes things don't fall your way. So I don't expect it to move. What I do expect might happen is that Karakuri gets buffed, but I still don't quite think that happens yet either. In fact, Karakuri wasn't even on the list last week. It was kind of just a watch, and so now they've updated it. They put it at Tier 2. I think that's probably about where it belongs, but if it continues to trend upward, it might end up being in Tier 1. It just feels like it's definitely behind Kawaki Meru. So it would be like Tier 1.5 if people were inclined to do that.
Yeah, it's just depending on what synchros are in the game. That's all they are. They're just super weak monsters that get synchros fast. So it's like, what new synchros are there? That's where they go.
Yeah, and how they can react, and like how the meta looks. Because if the meta just totally hates on Kawaki Meru, but then doesn't ignores the other decks, Karakuri's not hit by Sealed Tombs like a lot of the other top decks are.
Right.
And it avoids the Kawaki Meru hate. And so basically there could be a situation where everyone is targeting each other, and it just kind of slips in unnoticed and just takes home a tournament like it did this week. So, that might have been part of what happened. Buster Blader was upgraded. It's also Tier 2 now. Vampires apparently was still Tier 1 last week. I didn't remember that. But it's been demoted down to Tier 2. And it feels like it's on a really downward trend. It has not been brought to recent tournaments. All of the various sealed tombs and other hate is finally catching up with it, as well as just the fact that I think it kind of gets run over a little bit by the Buster Blader has a little bit of internal hate to it, and it gets run over by Kawaki Meru, and the Silent Swordsman also hurts it a little bit as well. So kind of just all these things are kind of shaping up for it to just be kind of the lowest it's been since it became a meta deck. And then the Tier 3 is, we talked about it before, is now only Control. It's been demoted to tier 3. It's kind of just struggling a little bit. It doesn't have the strongest matchup, or it has a bad matchup against Kwakimeru is kind of one of the main reasons. But it does have those new Silent Swordsman stuff that we talked about before. And so it might come back up to tier 2. It actually seems like it did better this week, even though it got demoted due to its new toys and stuff. So I'm not sure which direction that one's trending. That one's a little bit harder to spot. And then Spellbooks was removed from the list entirely. So now it was no longer tier 3. It got hurt by the various bans and stuff. And also we just haven't even seen it. I mean, Silent Swordsman hurts as well. And we just don't see people playing Spellbooks anymore. So it kind of makes sense that it's off the list.
Yeah, and that deck, I wouldn't say it's gone forever. I think it was removed before, and then it came back as a tier 3 again or something, right? I think
you're right. So, I mean, it's one of those decks we've talked about before that has a fairly high skill cap, and so I could never get it to work. But the people who really know how to play it are really good with it, and so, maybe it can come back and make its big moves. Also, all it takes is like a card that has some sort of effect whenever you play a magic or something. Any powerful card that does that, we've obviously seen some in the game already. Maybe not powerful enough to really make the cut on it, but the deck plays like 4 magic cards or 4 spell cards every turn. So it's kind of just, you can do that if you need to. You can get some sort of combo or something. So there's a lot of ways that the deck might make a comeback just because it just breaks open the meta and plays a little differently than it used to as well.
Yep, and it all makes sense. So this week, Trudge is back. There's a security sector on the move event. You can acquire him at 400,000 points if you haven't had him before. But there is a new skill out there called Parole as well. And there's something new this time with the special orders. You get more rewards for how many special orders you do. So you do 10 of them, you get gems. You get 30. I think I'm on 30 now. So you're doing 30, you get 30 gems, or 50. I forget what it was. But they have added rewards now. And a couple of new cards as well. So let's talk about the skill Parole. So I thought this skill was OP at first, but it's not. What happens is you have to have a monster that was special summoned from your opponent's graveyard. So you have to steal the monster basically from the graveyard. You send that monster back to their deck, and you gain life points equal to the attack of the monster. You could do this 2 times in a duel and once per turn. So, obviously it would have been OP if it was just, return a special summoned monster, but you have to do it. I found some cards that do it, Vampire Grimson being number 1, Goyo Chaser, and then also the new card Samsara, which can special summon the monster when it's destroyed. But I think it's better just to keep the monster for your own use so they don't get it back, basically. And it's in the deck, but it's not like it's back in their graveyard, which is worse. But I think it's better just to keep the monster.
Yeah, I think most of the time it's going to be... I'm trying to think, when you put the parasites in their deck from Weevil, they end up going into your graveyard, right?
No, they go back to Weevil's graveyard.
Right, yeah, that's how I meant, but phrased it oddly. Okay, so it doesn't work with that, because I was thinking that would be the one way that it would be really cool for it to work, would be if you could burn people, and then... Oh, but you can't. That would require you to use 2 skills anyway, so never mind.
You'd have to run the card it yourself, I think.
Yeah, I guess you could. That would be terrible too, though. So,
yeah,
I think, like you said, your initial assessment included misreading the skill, and so you overestimated it based on that. But then once we actually see what the skill actually does, then it's pretty clear. It doesn't seem like it's a very strong skill, except for like there's possibility that there's some sort of combo, that we're not seeing or whatever, that you can maybe break it in that way. But just in terms of general use, it seems pretty weak.
New card Stygian Security, 1-star Fiend Tuner, 100/600. If this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, special summon 1 level 1 Fiend monster from your deck. So, I mean, the obvious choice here is just to run 3 of these. You would get it destroyed, special summon another one, then you could tune the next turn for a synchro summon. Some other cards you can use, Ritual Raven, which is, I think it's like it counts for all the stars for a Dark Ritual, I believe. So it's just one monster to tribute for a Dark Ritual. So there's a bunch of those there. And Chaos Necromancer, which is a really big card if you have a ton of stuff in your graveyard. That's probably not the best moves for it, though.
Yeah, so the problem with the Ritual Raven is that this effect only happens in combat, and we don't have a second main phase, so you're probably not going to get to use the Ritual. And then the problem with the Chaos Necromancer is that this puts it into a defense position, right? Oh, no.
No, no.
Yeah, you could put it... Okay, never mind then. So, sure, Necromancer might kind of work. The one that I liked was Grave Squirmer. I wanted to add to your list. Which would be one of those kind of removal guys that you were talking about. I'm still not sure if that's actually like anything you want to be doing though. You point out like that this would require you're trying to get stall cards, but then at the same time you're thinning out your deck, and a lot of stall decks are kind of trying to make sure that they stay ahead. In terms of cards in deck, so that they can sometimes win by deck out. And this seems at odds with that. So it would be a weird deck that would want you to use the Stygian Security because the things you're getting don't quite line up with how it works.
Yeah, I think we need some kind of synchro monster that needs a fiend, and that might just be the fit. But until then, it's just a card, another tuner monster for us to have.
Yeah, and then another problem for me, of course, is that fact that we don't have a second main phase. So it needs to be, I don't know, for me, I want it to be something that I can use immediately in combat somehow. So it needs to like have some sort of special summon or have a use outside of its body because it's going to be weak because it's a level 1 and, you know, I don't know. It needs something beyond just, I don't like the ones where you use it the next turn because that doesn't seem strong enough.
We have Retaliating Sea, the second sea monster here. Level 4 insect, 1400. During either player's turn, when your opponent activates a spell that includes an effect that special summons a monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. If summoned this way, when this card is face up on the field, any card sent to the graveyard is banished instead. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can add 1 earth insect with 1500 attack or less from your deck to the hand, except for a Retaliating Sea. So, where do we begin? The card art is funny, so the whole situation is funny. Imagine a cockroach jumping on you. That would be pretty scary. And it does a lot of stuff. It can come out for free when they use Mass Change or Destruction Swordsman of Fusion. It tutors for an insect. It disables the graveyard. It's just a mess.
Yeah, you mentioned in the notes that it has like 3 unrelated abilities all in one card. And I just wanted to quickly point out that is terrible card design. Just like in terms of basic card design principles, you want the various effects that a monster or any card has to kind of relate to one another because it makes it easier for players to understand the card. It makes it just like, I don't know, more aesthetically pleasing or mentally pleasing, or, you know, however you want to think of it. And so just having this disjointed paragraph of like disjointed text, it doesn't impress me as an amateur, you know, game designer type person. But, you know, that's classic Yu-Gi-Oh! So whatever.
It is Retaliating Sea, though, so the situation dictated the confusion and angst.
Ah, yes, there you go. It's on theme. In terms of actually playing the card, I don't think you will. It doesn't seem like a card that's worth playing in any deck that I can think of.
Yeah, I mean, insects haven't seen any play. I don't know. I don't know if Inzectors even made it to. Like, I've never seen them hit King of Games. There's probably like one deck that hit King of Games, but you never see an Inzector in a tournament. And this card probably doesn't even fit in an Inzector deck. So.
Yeah, agreed on both accounts.
Let's see. What else is new here? Broken Blocker, trap card. Activate only when a defense monster you control whose defense is higher than its attack is destroyed by battle. Special summon up to 2 monsters with the same name as that monster from your deck in face-up defense.
This is the one I was thinking of when we were talking about the Stygian that I
Yeah.
thought had to be in defense position.
This kind of makes sense with Karakuris. They all have higher defense than attack typically. Well, the tuners do and the merchant does. You get more swordswomen out, but you want those in attack mode anyways, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the weird thing is like most monsters, if they're in defense position, then and they get destroyed, then the other one's going to get destroyed as well. Um, and so you want to use this, and then it also they're in face up, so you can't use it with flip things like whatever the man-eating bug or anything. It does make sense with the picture is a Big Shield Gardna. That one kind of makes sense because usually Big Shield Gardna only dies after your opponent's taken some damage for attacking into it. But that's also kind of just old game logic from when the game first started because now people can just either ignore it or attack through it or whatever. There's plenty of things that can overcome a Big Shield Gardna. So all in all, this is kind of just a meh card without too much of a use.
Now that I think about it, the Karakuri monster, the new tuner, not the new tuner, but the tuner that wasn't played for a while, the strategist, when it's special summoned, it can switch to the position of a monster. So you would get those guys out, and you could switch to your opponent's monsters before they attack.
That's kind of interesting.
And they're gonna go in defense mode anyways when they're attacked. So I don't know. We'll see. I don't think it fits though, because that's a really tight list.
Mm-hmm.
And then Kozaki. This card reminds me of Professor Hojo. Definitely, that's what this card is from.
Yeah, that made me laugh out loud. That's good stuff right there.
Good stuff. All right, farming. Right, you've been farming this.
Yeah, just barely. I did one just to make sure it still works, but it's actually the same deck that I used last time he was here, which was Elements Unite, and you just use basically once you get out what's this guy? The Gate Guardian? Yeah, once you get out the Gate Guardian, he doesn't have anything that's big enough to attack through it, so all you need to do at that point is draw through the rest of your deck. You don't attack because he does have some things that can mess with you if you attack. And then you just wait till your final turn, and you do the Vassal and the Pass and the Union attack, and have an anti-magic arrows to protect against his security orbs and stuff. And then that's it. Very easy farm.
Yep. I've been doing the Rabid Dragon farm, and the reason you would use Rabid Dragon is because it has higher defense than Blue Eyes, and Blue Eyes can get destroyed when in defense. So you do the Wonder Wands with Blue Dragon Summoners, you have Kid Motos, you have Ancient Rules, and you get a Rabbit Dragon out, and that's pretty much the game. So, same thing at the end.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I always appreciate an easy event. This one's nice because you don't have to log in at a specific time or anything to catch the roaming duelists. You can just, log in and clear your guys, and then fight them at the gate whenever you get enough, whatever they are, security passes or something. And then, like we said, easy farm. So this is a good one.
Yeah, I think Yami screwed us over because we have work and stuff. So there are just hours or work and or sleep.
Yes,
that we
yeah.
have to do in life.
If
All
only
right.
we didn't have to sleep.
Yeah, so much done every day,
Yeah. Way more children's card games.
We're just endorsing Adderall usage at this point right now. That's where we are in this podcast.
I don't think we were until just now when you specifically named it by name, but all right.
That prevents you from sleeping. So, all right. Pick a gift campaign. 2 new cards, 2 second copy cards. First one is Emissary from Pandemonium. It's a fiend with 7 stars, 2600, 1800. It's a tuner as well. It's a 7-star tuner. This card cannot be special summoned. You can normal summon this card 1 tribute. If you do, it becomes level 5, and its attack and defense are halved. So, I think you can clearly see the problem with this card. It's a tuner, and it's super slow, because it can't be special summoned. You can get 1 card. I mean, you can attribute it for 1 card, but then there's another there's already a level 5 tuner called Ally Mind, which has more attack. So there's really no point of having this card around. It can't be special summon. That's the thing that's bad for the tuner.
Yeah, yeah. The whole point of the synchro summons is that they're fast, and this is like the exact opposite of what you want from a tuner. It's a slow guy who, because your targets are going to be limited in their level. This is kind of like a slow guy who makes you play low level monsters when you want the exact opposite. You want a fast thing that you can get out for free or whatever that allows you to play like level threes and level fours without issue. And this kind of seems to be the opposite. So I agree. I don't think this card's very good.
Nope. This one is a little better. It's battle tuned. It's a quick play spell. Remove from play one tuner monster from your graveyard. Target one face-up monster you control. It gains attack equal to the removed monster's attack. The bad thing is that the main synchro deck Karakuris, the tuners have 0 or 500 attack, so you're pretty much doing nothing. Junk Synchron has 1300, which makes this okay for decks that run 3 of those, but we don't see a ton of those decks anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't think this is worth, like, it seems like a weak combat trick, or it just doesn't seem worth it to me. This doesn't seem like a good enough card to bother putting it into your deck and playing with it.
It does have amazing synergy with the card we just talked about, though. Like,
that's true.
2700.
Yeah. I mean, sure. I guess that's kind of what they were thinking. But then you're just running 2 bad cards in your deck to try to get them to work decently, and it still doesn't seem worth it.
You are getting second copies of Violon Delta and Gen X Ally Chemister, so we're probably gonna get 3 of each eventually, but more cards are good. Yeah.
Yeah, I got the Gen X Ally already, right? That was
right.
The one that was offered to us. So I ended up picking it up. And, it seems worth more than the
Air ticket.
The ticket that was offered with it. So, cool.
Survey regarding general gameplay. So there's a survey you can get for 50 gems. They're pretty much asking you what you like about the game, why do you play PvP, or what are your motivations, and also what characters you want in the game. So if you want a specific character in the game, now's the time to vote. They pretty much listen, since that's what happened to Tristan. So
yeah, these are cool. I mean, we talked about it before. The surveys are always nice because you get to have your voice heard, and they listen a lot more than other companies. I've actually been very impressed with how much they listen to this community. There are a few things, of course, that we haven't been happy with their changes or lack of changes, but they do a lot for trying to do what the community wants, and that's pretty dope. And then this time you also get 50 gems for it. They used to do this for the surveys where you would get more kind of other incentives for doing it, but they brought it back, and so definitely make sure you do at least this survey, if not all of them, so that you get your voice heard. This one for sure, because you get a free pack out of it.
Yep. Skill balances are live, so I think this is the one with mostly those draw sense type skills becoming 1,000 instead of 1,800, and then Harpy skill, I think. I forget which one.
Yeah, the one where they have to be in the graveyard.
The Feather Duster, yeah.
Yeah. So we talked about it, obviously, I think last week or the week before when it was announced. We think that the draw sense ones, the Kybercorp Bling, might be something decent.
Right.
And 1 or 2 of the draw sense might see some play now that they've been kind of buffed. They're not mandatory live yet. They're just available. I think if you play on desktop, it is mandatory.
Yes.
And then I think mine did it automatically on iOS. I don't know. But it becomes mandatory for everybody on the 23rd, which is also when the limited list goes live. And so kind of, I don't know exactly why that was easier to do, but it seems like they want to make sure that for sure the limited list is all applicable to everybody at the same time, which makes sense for competitive integrity, but they're a little bit less concerned about the skills, maybe because they know that those skills weren't seen much play and they don't expect that to change too much. But That's it. The 23rd also happens to be my birthday, so hopefully these are good skill and limitless changes, and we can call it a birthday present.
We'll all get gems for your birthday, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Yugi's birthday. Um, you do notice that once you upgrade the game to 3.3, they have that thing in the beginning. It's like a red flash about Konami's 50th birthday. So that's when you know when you're in version 3.3. I think that's pretty telling when there's a big red flash. It's like,
Yeah, okay, that's a pretty good sign. You can also see it, when you open up the app before you, what's it called, link, I guess, right? Um, then it shows at the version number at the top left, I think.
yeah, for sure. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about Dream Tickets before we end today. And people have recorded videos. I think Nasser put a video up right away about what the best type of card is. Obviously, you can go for any card you want. We're not telling you what to do, but in terms of competitive play, you don't get these Dream Tickets very often. This is only the second time we're getting them, and of course, this is a UR and an SR. So it's pretty much this is the best reward there is. I think this is better than 500 gems. Like this beats everything. I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I love these, and I was a little disappointed that they didn't implement it just kind of as a recurring or as a bigger feature in the game. I thought that it was going to be their workaround
Yeah.
for the fact that they don't have like a market in this game like every other digital card game does. Um, so, fingers crossed. I'm gonna put that in my survey. Fingers crossed that they actually make that part of something that happens in this game going forward. But in light of the fact that they do not, you have to treat these things as precious as they are, which we get like one every year.
Yeah. So we have a few tips. The first tip: don't get anything that is not worth gems or money. And by that, there's a whole variety of cards, and you may not know. If you're new to the game, you might not know where the cards came from. But there are ranked rewards here. There are event rewards. There are level up rewards, and there are farmable rewards. The event rewards you might be swayed a little bit about getting if you missed out the event forever, but they do give out other tickets where you can get those event rewards. So definitely, those are available.
Yeah, yeah. Are we taking these one at a time? Is that what we're doing, or did you want me
You,
to
you,
talk
you,
about?
you can take the next one if you want. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Another one is you don't want to take like a build around card if you don't have the rest of what is needed to use that build around, right? Because then that would be pretty much wasting the card. Uh, I
Right.
think the first time we got a dream ticket, this was an issue for me as to the ninja deck was big at the time, and
Right.
I needed three of the ninjutsu, whichever it was,
Transformation.
and yeah, the transformation. And I could have used the dream ticket to get one, but then I still would have needed to buy the box a bunch of times to get the other two, right? So that would have been a waste of the ticket, and I decided not to go that route. But that's kind of the same idea. If the deck requires you to have three of something, it's not going to help you to have one. That'd be essentially equivalent to throwing away your dream ticket, unless you plan on then going and getting the other ones that you're missing.
When you're looking at the UR tickets, try to get something from a box over a mini box. I guess, yeah, because the URs only come one in a box, and there's two SRs in a box. In the mini box, the URs and SRs are the same rarity in essence. So when you're talking about the URs, definitely try to get a box instead of a mini box because they're twice as big. So
Yeah, that's just kind of playing your odds. And then, kind of on a related point, I wanted to remind everyone that there are some pretty good sales going on right now to celebrate the worldwide launch anniversary. And so the boxes are all on sale, and those sales include guaranteed SRs and URs. And then the structure decks, there's a couple of unique cards from the structure decks that are also on sale, at least for the first buy through. And so if you are inclined to spend money on the game, I know not everyone is, or they kind of have their internal hangups. Like, I don't like that we had to pay for the structure decks, the one with silent thickness. And so, if you plan on spending some money on some of those things, you can kind of consider that in your math, going to both my point about making sure you have a full playset, and also that most recent point about which cards you want main box versus mini box, those guaranteed URs and SRs can give you really good odds to get, you have a 50-50 to get the UR you want or something. If you're trying to take that 50-50, maybe you do that first and then see if it pays off and then use your dream ticket. But you can consider basically those overall values as well when you're trying to pick what you want.
Speaking of Silent Magician, you could get her with the UR ticket. That is one that I'm heavy on. Like,
yeah,
I could get my second. I bought it once for money. I don't know if there's a point in having two, but I feel like spellbooks can go away, and that could still be a very good card. I feel like so as long as there are spellcasters in the game, that's an option.
Yeah, I was kind of tempted for that one also, especially since her box is on sale, or her structure deck's on sale now. So I was like, maybe. But that's also one that I would want a play set. So that was part of my hang up on it. I still don't know what I'm going to get with my UR. I've been
we have a whole year to decide, so that's fine.
Yeah, that's true. That's another point, actually. If you don't have anything you want right now, you might as well hold on to it, because it could be that something pops up in the meta that makes it so that your choice would be different later on. And if you're just getting something now just to have it, but you don't plan on actually using it, then you might, based on those shifts, eventually have ended up wasting your ticket on something that you just never use. Whereas if you wait until you want something, then you will actually have a use for it.
Yeah. Well, what other tips do we have? I guess something you could do is look in the boxes to see, like, if there's a box you're almost done with and then the UR is there, you might as well just go back and finish it. You could rule out those. Definitely use some of your other tickets, like the Karibo tickets, to weed out some cards that are not obvious in the choices, so you could just do those, like spend those all readily.
Another thing is, I don't think you could do it from the Dream Ticket menu, but if you don't know where a card is from, you can of course always Google it or whatever, or you can go into the card manager, either from the trader or from the whatever it's called, the page on the fourth screen, and see where cards are from, and then you can look that up and help you track it down to see how far you are into that box, or see if it's worth it to buy that structure deck, or if it's a reward from just dueling at the gate, like we talked about. You definitely want to avoid those because you could just get it from the gate. So there you go.
Yeah, I don't know if it was intentional to not have the how to obtain button in the ticket selection. Make you go back.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems kind of weird.
We've uncovered the secrets of Konami.
That's right.
It was this long. Well, upcoming news. Jack Atlas will be available next week, so we finally get a new Legendary Duelist. And of course that means new skills, new cards, and of course a lot of gems. So grateful for that.
Yeah.
Yep. Duel-a-Thon is back. We're not sure what we're getting, but I think there are rumors that there's like a new card that's coming out, and they don't know where it's from, so it's probably from there. It's probably the Aroma Seraphy Rosemary, so we might be getting that card. And Casey Cup, of course, is next month. And next week we should also be getting the updates for the upcoming month as well.
Yep. Yeah, that timing seems right. So that's all we have for now, but there'll be plenty to talk about next week, probably.
So find this podcast anywhere. Search the Duel Assessment Podcast. Check out the podcast more at our website, theduelassessment.wordpress.com, Facebook, facebook.com/theduelassessment, Patreon. If you like what we're doing, patreon.com/duel_assessment. Email us with any questions to theduelassessment@gmail.com, or you can find us on Twitter, where you can tell us all about Mother's Day, duel_assessment, me at Green Rangers, CCG, and HS Deck Tech at HS Deck Tech.
Yep. Yeah, we love to hear about Mother's Day.